What are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are a combination of carbon plus water. Carbohydrates are sugar compounds made by plants when the plants are exposed to light. This process of making sugar compounds is called photosynthesis. Carbohydrates come in three varieties: simple carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, and dietary fiber. All are composed of units of sugar. The difference between the three varieties is how many units of sugar they contain and how the units are linked together. What are simple carbohydrates? It's a carbohydrate with 1 unit of sugar, which can also be called a monosaccharide. A carbohydrate with 2 units of sugar is called a disaccharide. What are complex carbohydrates? Also known as polysaccharides, complex carbohydrates have more than 2 units of sugar linked together. Foods such as breads, grain, cereals, pastas, fruits and vegetables are full of complex carbohydrates, also known as starch and fibers. Dietary fiber. Fiber is an indigestible form of carbohydrate and hence it is not used by the body for energy. However, fiber is vital to the body for regulating bowel functions, reducing the risk of intestinal problems and promoting feelings of fullness. Because fiber is said not to nourish your body, it is not considered as nutrient. But it is still a component of food that promotes your good health in many other ways. There are 2 distinct types of fiber. The first, insoluble fiber, which aids in digestion. This group of fibers, cellulose, hemicellulose and lignin, gives structure to plant cell walls. Wheat bran, for example, is high in insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber is the second type of fiber and it has protective benefits. Soft, liquid food may have fiber, too. Instead of giving a coarse texture to food, soluble fiber, such as that in oat bran, dissolves to become gummy and viscous. They are often used in low-fat and non-fat foods to add texture and consistency. Fibers called gums, mucilages, and packing are all soluble. What do carbohydrates do? Your body runs on glucose, the molecules your cells burn for energy. Proteins, fats and alcohol also provide energy in the form of calories. Protein does give glucose, but it takes a long time for your body to get it. Carbohydrates fuel the body. Carbohydrates are the body's most efficient energy source. They are the fuel that keeps your muscles, brain and other organs running smoothly. How carbohydrates function? All the digestive carbohydrates you get from food provide either glucose or sugar units that can be converted quickly to glucose. The glucose is then carried into your cells with the help of insulin, a hormone secreted by your pancreas. During digestion, carbohydrates break down into glucose molecules. Glucose, the body's most efficient and readily available energy source, enters the bloodstream and feeds the brain, organ and muscle tissues. A small amount of glucose is stored in the liver and muscles as glycogen. Carbohydrates foods contain 4 calories per gram. An average adult gets 50 to 60% of their daily calories from carbohydrates. How carbohydrates are helpful? Your body can store enough carbohydrates in the form of glycogen to meet average energy needs for about half a day. If you eat more carbohydrates than the body can use or store, excess is converted to fat. Excess glucose in the bloodstream, or high blood sugar, stimulates insulin production. Insulin's job is to rush glucose. At this point, the body converts the surplus glucose to fat. Many experts now recommend eating 4 to 6 small meals per day, rather than 3 meals, to reduce the incidence of carbohydrate overload and maximize carbohydrate conversion into usable energy. Low-carb diets are great for some people. Low-carb diets cause more weight loss and led to greater improvement in various health markers, including HDL, the good cholesterol, blood triglycerides, blood sugar, blood pressure and others. For people who are obese, or have metabolic syndrome and/or type 2 diabetes, low-carb diets can have life-saving benefits. This should not be taken lightly, because these are currently the biggest health problems in the world, responsible for millions of deaths per year. However, just because low-carb diets are useful for weight loss and people with certain metabolic problems, they are definitely not the answer for everyone. Carbs are not the cause of obesity. While it is true that added sugars and refined carbs are linked to increased obesity, the same is not true of fiber-rich, whole food sources of carbohydrates. Humans have been eating carbs for thousands of years, in some form or another. Blaming new health problems on something that we've been eating for a very long time simply doesn't make sense. Many populations in the world have remained in excellent health while eating a high-carb diet, such as the Okinawans, Catawans and Asian rice eaters. What they all had in common was that they ate real, unprocessed foods. However, populations that eat a lot of complex carbohydrates and processed foods tend to be sick and unhealthy. Carbs are not essential, but many carb-containing foods are incredibly healthy. Many low-carbers claim that carbs are not an essential nutrient. This is technically true. The body can function without a single gram of carbohydrate in the diet. It is a myth that the brain needs 130 grams of carbohydrate per day. When we don't eat carbs, part of the brain can use ketones for energy. These are made out of fats. Additionally, the body can produce the little glucose the brain needs via a process called gluconeogenesis. However, just because carbs are not essential, that doesn't mean they can't be beneficial. Many carb-containing foods are healthy and nutritious, such as vegetables and fruits. These foods have all sorts of beneficial compounds and provide a variety of health benefits. Although it is possible to survive even on a zero-carb diet, it is probably not an optimal choice because you're missing out on plant foods that science has shown to be beneficial. How to make the right choices? Carbohydrates that are in their natural, fiber-rich form are healthy, while those that have been stripped of their fiber are not. If it's a whole, single-ingredient food, then it's probably a healthy food for most people, no matter what the carbohydrate content is. With this in mind, it is possible to categorize most carbs as either good or bad, which can be looked at as general guidelines. Good carbs. All the vegetables. It is best to eat a variety of vegetables every day. Whole fruits like apples, bananas, strawberries, etc. Legumes like lentils, kidney beans, peas, etc. Nuts like almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts, macadamia nuts, peanuts, etc. Seeds like chia seeds, pumpkin seeds. Choose grains that are truly whole, as in pure oats, quinoa, brown rice, etc. Tubers like potatoes, sweet potatoes, etc. People who are trying to restrict carbohydrates need to be careful with the whole grains, legumes, tubers and high-sugar fruit. Bad carbs. Sugary drinks like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, vitamin water, etc. Sugary drinks are some of the unhealthiest things you can put into your body. Fruit juices. Unfortunately, fruit juices may have similar metabolic effects as sugar-sweetened beverages. White bread. These are refined carbohydrates that are low in essential nutrients and bad for metabolic health. This applies to most commercially available breads. Pastries, cookies and cakes. These tend to be very high in sugar and refined wheat. Ice cream. Most types of ice cream are very high in sugar, although there are exceptions. Candies and chocolates. If you're fond of chocolates, choose quality dark chocolate. French fries and potato chips. Whole potatoes are healthy, but French fries and potato chips are not. These foods may be fine in moderation for some people, but many will do best by avoiding them as much as possible.